Good evening, everyone. I'm architect Nanda Kumar. Um, I'd like to say thanks to ACEDGE and Glass Academy for giving this opportunity to uh, talk about our work. And so today I'll take you through a photographic journey, something that started 19 years ago around this time, because I did a backpacking trip through Europe starting August 21st, 2001. And it was August 22nd to September 9th when I returned back. I was doing a master's at the University of California, and I was figuring out what to do next and deciding whether to work in the US or come back home. And this was a trip that clarified things for me. So um, let me start. So I'm calling this talk Frames and Textures, Journeys in Hospitality. So we started this backpacking trip in Paris. It's like maybe you can say a pilgrimage or getting back in touch with the works of the masters, I guess. So we started in Paris, and one of my favorite um, spaces is this one, the Louvre Pyramid by I.M. Pei, which had opened a few like 5 years before that, and it reworked the the entry into the museum, and these are some images from there. So the transparency of that pyramid brought to that courtyard uh, by bringing that function of the entry to the middle of that large plaza, and the beauty in detailing is what I learned from this thing. And there's this staircase that takes you down from the pyramid with a lift which is in the middle. You don't notice the elevator at all. It's a hydraulic cylinder that goes up and down. But the eye for detail is what I love about I.M. Pei's work here. That railing in that courtyard detail, which is essentially an ode to the railing that goes to the roof of the Milan Cathedral. That is done in marble, and this is done by scooping out the stone and then adding a metal railing. One of the most beautiful details I've known. And if you notice, most of these where these pictures are essentially slides that are scanned. And there was a time when photography was a chemical process, and this is from that time. Another one of my favorites, the Pompidou Center by Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers. In the middle of Paris, a totally surprising building, but a scale that matches the city, and it creates this urban plaza in front, which you'll see is a reference to the piazza in Siena, which will come down later in the thing. So remember this photograph because I'll talk about the reference as we go forward. Again, the beauty of this building is by putting all the services and elements on the outside, and the interior is a great hall for taking on exhibitions and everything else. The roof of the same building, one of the great rooftops in the world. That shallow water reflects the sky, and you look onto the rest of the old Paris from this very modern rooftop. And this was the restaurant by Jacob and McFarlane at that point in time on top of the Pompidou Center. We next went to Bilbao from Paris. essentially we landed in Paris, and then the actual trip started, I guess, from the north of Spain in the Basque country, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao by Frank Gehry. Again, a building that changed the fabric of a city. And when we landed there was an exhibition of Giorgio Armani and the Korean artist Nam June Paik. And again, Guggenheim Museum Bilbao, one of those seminal buildings, and the use of material here, and the way you access the building. You sort of walk down, the entry of the museum is down there, and that big sculpture of by Jeff Koons, the puppy and flowers. Again, the way the museum is situated, the site was selected in the middle of. There's a rail line that goes underneath the building. There's a canal at the back, and then there's a flyover that goes right over the building. A very interesting take. So that's the canal at the back. You can see the stage being set for a Armani fashion show, those red seats and all the temporary seats going up. The juxtaposition of plastic coils of cables and the fish forms of Bilbao. The material, the stone, the glass, titanium, and there's a picture of me just to prove that I was there. From Bilbao, we made our way east to Barcelona. Again, a Frank Gehry structure, one of his early structures. The fluidity of form on the Bilbao beach. And then Gaudi's work. This was La Pedrera, the entrance and the courtyard. The beautiful rooftops, the helmeted exhaust systems from the toilets and the plumbing, but a way of creating things on the roof. And absolutely fluid forms from a century ago, more than a century ago. From Barcelona, we went to Rome, 2 stops in Spain, and then a lot of it was Italy. This is the remnants of the Forum in Rome. You can see the Colosseum in the backdrop. And the quality of light was something else. The Spanish Steps and the neighborhood around the Spanish Steps. Large spaces for urban gatherings. The spiral ramp and staircase at the Vatican. The beautiful light in the Pantheon. And then on to Florence and the beauty of Tuscany. The Duomo and the skyline of Florence. And the scale, look at the scale. They maintain the Duomo maintains its dominance, and you can see the Uffizi, which is on the left of that frame. And then the cityscape from the top of the dome. There's a beautiful scale that they maintain. And then this is that reference from the Pompidou Square is sort of based on this city square in the town of Siena near Florence. And this is where the famous race called the Il Palio is held. They fill this whole square with mud, and then they have a horse race between the 11 counties from around Siena. 2 frames, one looking through an arch into the square and one looking up the square at the Campanile. And then life around the square. And then the rolling hills of Tuscany we were driving to this town called San Gimignano. This is San Gimignano, which is it's called the Manhattan of the medieval times, and each person sort of built the tallest tower he could in his property. And this town is made up of all these towers. So from a distance, you'll see multitudes of these towers. And what you see is the top of the hill in that town. And this is where you get some of the best gelato in Italy. Again, making way up to the end, the souvenir shops. That's the movie theater in San Gimignano. It's an outdoor theater. And then the textures of the stone walls and the little details. And then we go to Venice, and this is the main street of Venice, the Grand Canal. So now imagine the road to be the canal, and the paradigm of the city changes to this fluid main street. The taxi parking outside the hotel, the neighborhood streets with the mode of transport parked in front of your house. And then from Venice, we went to Rotterdam, and this bridge, the Erasmus Bridge by UN Studio and Ben Van Berkel, had just opened. This skyline is totally changed from 19 years ago. There's a lot more building around this neighborhood now, and it's one of those premier destinations in Rotterdam. Again, details, modern details of lighting of the bridge and the small, what do you call, harbor lighthouse kind of thing, structures around, and walking through the Erasmus Bridge. And then closer to home, that was this trip was the one that changed my perception, and I sort of returned home a month after I returned back from this trip. And then I got to go to Sri Lanka around 2005, and another eye-opening trip to see works by Bava. This was Bava's old office. It's now the Paradise Road Gallery. And just the effortless detail and quality of space and light is what stayed from this trip. The textures in that courtyard, the cement tiles, and the wall with that yellow paint. And then Baba's Lunuganga estate, which is another work, something that got him to get into architecture, and it's a place that you should not miss. The concept of outdoor rooms, something where he uses a single element to define a space in the outdoors, is something that he does a lot in Lunuganga. Just this creation of spaces in the outdoors, right? A beautiful journey through Lunuganga. And then we got to see a whole bunch of hotels by Bava. This is the one on the left is Hotel Bentota. The one on the right is the entrance to the Lighthouse Hotel. And the rocks are just left as they were on site. And it's just an effortless way of working with them. And then these are again two different frames, one from Bentota again, and the other one is from the spa at the Lighthouse Hotel. This is the Lighthouse Hotel at the southernmost tip of southernmost tip of Sri Lanka. The courtyard and the spa. And one of my favorite details, the way the floor um, just steps down to take water. I thought was a brilliant detail. And then this was a trip in 2012 to Japan um, to again. So the island cultures seem to have something going for them. Sri Lanka, then Japan, maybe even Bali. There's a way they work with material and craft, and that's beautiful. So you see Ando's Church of Light, and then the National Museum in Roppongi. And then the Zen gardens, Zen and art of doing less, I guess, in design is taken to another level in Japan. Just the textures and green, the rocks that are just touched minimally, right? And there's a beauty to, and one of the most meditative courtyards I've ever seen. And then repetition of stuff and how repetition creates space by itself. I'd like to end this journey with a frame from our own work. And this is a frame within a frame and a project of ours called Saptaparni. So we at Nanda Associates primarily work, a lot of our work is in residential and hospitality. So now I'd like to take you through hospitality projects of ours. We're going to talk mainly about two large projects, and we'll show you a couple of early projects of ours. So hospitality is food, service, and wellness to us. So in this slide, I just want to put out all the terms that you'll sort of come across when you're talking of hospitality projects. Hospitality consists of, I think essentially a hotel project would consist of guest floors with the guest rooms, the guest corridors. So that's the room side of things. Then you have F&B, which is essentially food and beverage, which has all the different areas where where you get food service, the bakery, the bar, the all-day dining, specialty restaurant, and then banqueting, which is also part of F&B, but it's got its own way. So these form the three essential parts of a hospitality project, and they're backed by their kitchens. Normally, there might be banquet kitchens, there might be other kitchens, but sometimes there's a single kitchen that serves all purposes. And then you have what is called the front of house, which is where the guests are greeted and and then the back of house, which is BOH, which is what keeps the hotel running. And all these are backed by engineering and housekeeping, which engineering is something that runs the place. Housekeeping is what keeps it running in its spick and span condition. So now that we're done with those terms, let's get to the projects. So every practice sort of starts with small F&B projects. So we started off with two small projects, which were we were redoing a pub. This was called the Torque, and as from the name, the concept is based on what do you call automobile parts. So we use parts from the automobile to create. So these are sections from that space, which is essentially in the stilt of a hotel Green Park in Hyderabad. At that point, this outlet was called Torque, and the brief we got was based on these automotive theme. So, and this is how we did. So we used all kinds of waste parts to create artwork on the walls, partitions, And then the bar seats were crankshafts from, and the base was a tire thing, and these were the bar stools. So there are more images of that. The ball bearings formed a detail on the bar counter. Then we cut up a Jeep, which is what greeted you as you entered into the space. And other images. So you can also see a scooter seat used as a bar stool at the bottom of this picture. And then there's a part of a BMW car that had to be removed because of an accident to the owner's vehicle, and that became a part of the bar too. And then another small bar in the same hotel called Mustang. So we redid the space with the bar. The bar counter had a detail which looks like folded fabric, but it's actually in wood. And then we had the small red lighting detail above the bar. And then the tables were lit by themselves. And then when you put alcohol or anything liquid on it, it sort of glowed with a different. So this was those initial projects we'd done for that chain. And then we come to our interior project. We've done hotels both as and interiors. So this is the Hotel Marigold by the Green Park Group. This is interiors for the hotel that we've done. We've done the restaurant, the Mekong, the Saffron Sol, which is the all-day dining, the Mystique Bar, and the banquets. So hotels normally need a team working on this. So this hotel, the architecture was done by Upasni Design Cell out of Bombay. We, Nanda Associates, did the interior design. United Consultants from Chennai were the structural designers for the hotel. And SKM from Bombay did all the mechanical services. There was no lighting consultant on this job, so we did most of the lighting and coordinated the services too. And landscape was by Naveen Panuganti out of Hyderabad, Naveen Associates. So this is the plan of the ground floor, which has all the guest areas, public guest areas. So the big gray area you see in the middle is the large kitchen. So this hotel has a single kitchen which serves all the food outlets. The top left is the restaurant Mekong. The middle atrium is the coffee shop, Saffron Sol, also the all-day dining. The reception and the waiting is at the bottom on the left side. The bar Mystique is in the middle on the way to the banquets, and the large violet colored patch you see in the middle is the large ballroom called the Peacock Ballroom. So this is the essential layout, and I'll sort of take you through a small tour of the place. So as soon as we entered, since it's Hotel Marigold, you're greeted by these marigold sculptures by Alex Davies in a small water body. And this becomes the focal point as you walk into the hotel. And the brief for this was a business hotel, slightly a classical way. They didn't want to go completely modern, something that's a bit timeless, which works over. It's not of that just a few years, but it lasted at least 10 to 15 years. So what you see in this picture, is the two reception tables at the back. Then you see that slight curved wooden detail, which essentially takes your eye up into the atrium, the central atrium, which is over the coffee shop in the hotel. So the wooden detail also hides the service floor, which is a unique detail in most hotel projects. That's the section through the atrium. The hotel itself is 3 room floors and the lobby level. The lobby level has height, and you can see at the bottom the service floor detail. what we did was to unify the atrium, we created this frame with jalis from details taken from Hyderabad's multitude of um, jali work that is there. So we referenced jalis from the Charminar and a whole bunch of other old Qutub Shahi architectural details. And then we have these lights in the form of uh, these floating ply, laser cut ply lights. This is the waiting area in the lobby, the reception, and that's the saffron soul. And you can see details of those jali frames and those lights. So something that we do when we work on hospitality is to work on almost every detail, including color of what's on the table, these things. And there's an interest in food that I sort of take to my hospitality projects. The next thing within the hotel is the Mekong restaurant, something something that's very dear to us, something that we got to do a lot more than just design the space. We got to work on the menu with the team, the F&B team at the hotel, and we got to name the restaurant. We picked the name from a book called Hot, Sour, Sweet and Salty by Jamie Duigood, a Canadian author who did a trip along the river Mekong, starting in Yunnan in China, going through Burma, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, where the Mekong finally reaches the ocean. And the book was a cookbook and a travelogue along the river Mekong. And that's where we got the idea for the naming of the restaurant, the food content in the menu, and also a lot of the design cues from there. And if you see the layout is sort of that curve divides the area into two, which is divided by just the flooring detail. One is the detail at the bottom is something that works like wood. And the contrast to it is that smooth granite flooring and rest. So there's a PDR, private dining room, in the upper right corner, and then a central live kitchen, and then seating on either side. We had a service floor that runs above the restaurant, so we had to deal with it where we did services coordination and all that. You can see that at the bottom. And so this is one of the main striking elements in the restaurant is the roof, which is which is sort of based, the design is based on this water waves so it's from the river. And if you look at the stone detailing, the granite at the back near the bar is all stone that's used in water bodies, but we use it as just referencing something. And then you can also see blue fabric. So normally Pan-Asian restaurants have this red details and all that, but we wanted to keep it more thing. So there was a choice in picking Celadon green as the choice for the plating and crockery details. And blue was the primary color within this thing. And then there's a reference to these bird cages that are kept all over shops along the Mekong. So there's more of the detail of this CNC cut roof panels that are hanging and form this kind of actually the design was picked up from a Jeffrey Bawa sketch of water. And then you can see paper dividers made in paper, handmade paper by this artist called Jenny Pinto out of Bangalore for this semi-private sitting area. And then we used jalis with motifs from the Mekong on the windows. And then you can see the other details. We just happened on these birdcage lights when we were on a sourcing trip, and they just immediately we said yes. Otherwise, we had a fabric detail lights in the original design. This is a view of the kitchen. So the roof was supposed to be reflected in this smooth granite flooring at the bottom. And then this is the private dining area with, again, the fabric paneling representing water. And even the choice of the chairs with the curve of the chair and all was based on that water motif. Next, we go to the bar called the Mystique. So here we were presented with a room that had 3 unequal sized columns. And we made those columns the focal points in this. We have a bar against the wall on the top left, and booths on the right side of the thing. So this is what we use those columns as. A concept that sort of came off from, you could say, the fire tree, the Gulmohar tree. And we used those large flat cylinders as elements that unify at the same time, create these seating arrangements around it. You can see the bar in the foreground, which has these fingers that allow for groups to sit around the bar and get served. And we used the bottles, used wine bottles as a screen to the public space, which is outside, which leads to the banquets. So at the same, you see the light, but at the same time, you get privacy through this. And then if you see the white screen behind the bar, that backdrop is created with used water bottles from this company called Qua. And that becomes the backdrop with the lighting, makes it a different range. And the red comes from the use of just simple blouse fabric put on a stitch detail, put on a pipe, and just tube lights doing the lighting. And it just comes out brilliantly in these pictures and at the space. So that's the detail, basic blouse fabric. And you can sort of see the bottles and behind the bartender. And that's a different lighting circuit behind those bottles. And it's sort of this moving screen across the project. Then the banqueting facilities at Hotel Marigold. So we picked the concept, it was called the Peacock Ballroom, and that was our design cue. So you see the carpet design, which is sort of based on peacocks. And so the colored stone detail you see is the corridor around the ballroom, and there the meeting rooms on the either side of the ballroom. The ballroom itself has a pre-function. This is the access to the banquet with the bar on the right side. The waiting at the start of the ballroom. The pre-function with a large mirror that reflects space, and also one of the ways of doubling a space by just using mirrors. And the detail on the wall also takes its cue from the peacock. What do you call the detail, the colors and all that. And we picked a single light element and used it in different configurations across the ballroom, the banquet. This is the banquet. You can see the peacock colored wall paneling, which is removable fabric panels in graded colors. The textures on the walls are to cut down sound reflections so that you have those details on the two corners and the fabric panels to dumb down the thing. This room is quite colorful and normally doesn't need decorations that other ballrooms need, and a lot of parties and events go on without too much decoration. But it also has the way of taking whatever is needed for decoration if needed. More details from the ballroom. So the Peacock Ballroom with all its colors that are derived from the theme. Then we come to this other hotel project that we were working on the same time. This is a 216 room hotel for a prominent pharma group in Hyderabad. Now, this is a project we were associated. We did the project report first, then um, we were part of this journey right from the first dig on the site to the finish on this. Again, the large. So this was our first hotel that we were designing by ourselves, right? And it's normally good to surround yourselves with great teams. And most of the team that worked with us are with a lot more experience than us. So we were the architects for the project. Pool Associates, Ed Pool from Singapore was the interior design consultant. United Consultant Chennai was our structural design consultant, and he was pivotal to the way the project shaped up. SK Murthy from Mumbai was mechanical services. And we had Babu Shankar from Integrated Lighting Design, Los Angeles, as the lighting consultant, and Design Cell Delhi and Bangalore as our landscape partners on this job. So as you're going to the high-tech city, you suddenly see this break from all these regular buildings. There's a building with this big void in the middle, which gardens, step terraces, that gives you a visual break from the rest of the buildings out there. This is the Hotel Lavasa. It is one of the first hotel of it built by this group of clients. This was the client wanted a project that would define the design direction for a possible chain when they wanted a design-based solution for a business hotel. They were clear that they wanted to break the image of a conventional hotel box. So this unconventional sort of site that skewed, almost triangular plot, which is wide up front and narrows to the back. This was the biggest challenge, the site itself. And the site was a leftover from the project next door, those apartments that you see, the Vastu box. We had to use this site as a thing. So the site itself looked like an A or a V, depending on which side you were looking at. So the evolution of the form itself, we started with what's possible, what's allowed to be built on site. That became the podium shape. And it started out as a conventional double-loaded corridor thing, but then the design move was to break that open, and it became two wings of rooms. And then further, the step terraces became the roof of the atrium formed as such, and then a bridge connected from the bar for the thing. So that was the essential form making on the building. This was the typical guest floor thing, a 24 bay hotel room, 8.4 by 8.4 grid for 2 rooms. And we were able to do 26 rooms per floor. And let me take you through the ground floor. So you get dropped in this large porte-cochere, as you see in the picture, the lower left. The ground floor has the all-day dining, which is the green carpet, the detail that you see at the bottom of that plan. The opposite that is the specialty restaurant. And then all the back of that narrow edge is the kitchen and services. And then the thing that is off on the bottom left of the plan is the grand staircase that takes you up to the banquet level. So ground floor is where you get dropped. You enter into a atrium. You enter into this atrium, which has got the reception waiting, and you have the all-day dining on one side and the specialty restaurant on the other. The backlit glass panels are where the reception is. And you sort of look up into this atrium, into the ballroom. That blank wall you see is the wall of the ballroom that floats over the porte-cochere, where you get dropped under it. And then you can see the interior designer uses these circles because he says the best way to deal with these odd shape of the building and all is to use the circles, which negotiate those odd shapes better. So you can see that prevalent in a lot of his detailing. Uh, the beautiful grand staircase that leads you into the ballroom. The ballroom is called the constellation, and those circles form the roof line. And then, so you have the big ballroom with its pre-function from the going from the grand staircase, and then you can see the meeting rooms on either side. The central core are those the 6 lifts, 3 guest elevators, and 3 service elevators that form the core for the thing. And then you have 2 more banks of elevators on either side of the room grid. And then, so the second level was the banquets. The third level is the first room floors, and you have another atrium on this level, which splits from the atrium of the lobby, because you want a quieter atrium at the room level. This level has the pool level. It's also the pool level. The outside, the base is the pool, then the atrium, and then so this being the lower level, we also have the gym, and the gym is next to the pool, and the spa is attached to it, and the rest of the wings are the wing is uh, the rooms. This is the two atriums form what do you call, 2 different volumes, and they play their job well. One, the lobby atrium is at the ground level, and it connects the ground level, the lobby level, to the ballroom level. And then this atrium connects most of the room floors. This starts at the 3rd level, goes up to the 9th level. And you can see the step terraces in this image of the central plaza. And the atriums form a very important part of the design of the hotel. Starting room, starting level 4 to level 9 are the typical room floors. The room grid, as I said, is based on a 8.4 meter by 8.4 meter grid. And you can see the room pictures, the images at the bottom. And this hotel had a different brief. It is in the high-tech city, and it had to cater to this young, energetic engineering crowd, right? And that was a brief that we designed the hotel to, and the interior design designed his interiors too. The 10th and 11th level also have rooms, but the one difference is the bridge that connects the 2 wings and becomes the Sky Lounge, which is the bar. It's a 2-level volume, originally designed as 2 different floors, but during meetings between the interior designer and architects and the clients, we decided that we'd use the volume as a more interesting bar, and this creates a very unique bar. You can see the image of the step terraces and that double height bar space looking out into the city view. The sections, the building sections were the most important diagrams for us in the design process. Essentially, they were the most important drawing, and this is where we fixed the volumes and all. The way you look at those step terraces from the road level and all that, they work perfectly for us, and you can literally see up through the terraces and those terrace gardens from the road. And now there's a metro in front, and as you going in the metro, you would see this to being totally different from anything around, I think. And that's our section. So we have 3 basements, which are parking and services, the lobby level, the banquet level, then the atrium, and the 9 room levels. There are 3 important bridges. One that connects the 10th and 11th floor, which you see in that image. The other is at the 4th level, which becomes the business club, which is in with those blue furniture. And the swimming pool level itself, which is the podium. So this is the interior view of those, looking out from the atrium into the step terraces on the 9th floor. So the corridor sort of gives you, and all the terraces are facing the north direction. So there's literally north light without any direct sunlight coming into the atrium, but it's lit all through the day. And the interior design followed it by doing minimal lighting in the atrium and the corridors also. Structural system. The contribution of the structural engineer to this project is enormous. Um, he's got, we have used a flow post tension system for the large span roofs on the banquet level, but the variable truss that forms the bridge structural system, which you can see in that image, it's 27 meters span on the front and 24 meters at the back. And it's a 3-level variable girder that works together as a single beam to support this structure. And another variable girder forms the bottom of those step terraces that supports the rest of the terraces on it. That bottom 3 floors work together again as a structural system, holding up the rest of the terraces. The atrium and those exposed structural columns and the bottom variable girders clad in glass. Then materials and ideas. So our flooring is from a local, when it's engineered flooring with large slabs made in Vizag by this company called Pokana, brand named Quantra. First time it was used, we used Wienerberger hollow bricks, terracotta blocks to form the infill and all the walls and everything. That reduced the loading on the structure, as well as it was quicker construction, easier to cut through and all that. We avoided alico bond cladding as much and kept it deliberately to the bare minimum. Then the services on large projects like these. When you do a hotel project, the amount of services you need to understand and work together with, you can do any other building types. A hotel and a hospital are a fundamental project to learn about all kinds of services. And we used the central building management system for efficient utilization of energy and resources, solar power to augment the central boiler and water heating system. Chilling system, we found an efficient things, and we, at that point in 2012, it was we used LED light fixtures in all rooms to keep the consumption to minimal. And there's a sewage treatment system installed on site, which recycles water to water the terrace landscapes and gardens. Like you to take you through some construction images. This is the site across as a timeline when they acquired the site at 2007, early excavations 2008, construction above ground by 2009. You can see it going up 10, 11, and a finished structure on 2012. The lowest basement, we have 3 basements. The first basement sort of opens onto the road at the back, becomes a service entry. And then as we come up above the ground. And one of the tough challenges was to create that void in the front. And we essentially had to spend extra money on those supports, which had to come all the way from the last basement all the way to the bottom of that bridge. And they had to stay in place till 3 floors above it were cast. So that was one of the challenges, and it added a bit of costing. It increased our scaffolding cost by another 10% on the overall project. Then this is the pool. This was the image that got us the project, the framed view of the terrace gardens. And that's how we finished it. That's the project, Hotel Avasa. And what's in the works are we're doing a bunch of other hotels. One, there's a Hyatt place in Vijayawada that's ongoing. Then there's this project, which is an older project. Now we did a hotel. We did a hotel as an interior designer. We did a hotel an architect. And on this job, we're the project architects. So we are essentially coordinating everything between an architect who designed the original building, the interior designers, and so we're the coordinating architects on this job. Different renders for this pitching to different hotel chains. Uh, so another couple of other pitches that we've been doing for other hotel jobs.